The most anxious children on earth are not raised by bad parents. They are raised by the most devoted ones. And the reason why is something almost no one in parenting will say to your face. Because the moment I explain it, you are going to recognize yourself in it, not in the abstract, not, oh, that sounds familiar. You are going to hear a specific moment from this morning, maybe from an hour ago, and your stomach is going to drop. So before I say another word, I need you to hear this. What I am about to tell you is not a verdict. It is a map, and the fact that you are here, listening this closely, already tells me something about you that matters more than anything else in this video. But we will get to that. First, there is a behavior happening in your home right now that nearly every parenting expert, every grandmother, every pediatrician will praise you for. They will call it sweet. They will call it a sign of a strong bond. Strangers will smile at it in the grocery store. And it may be the earliest signal that your child's nervous system is already in distress. I am going to tell you what that behavior is, but if I name it now, without the science underneath it, your brain will do exactly what every parent's brain does, dismiss it. So give me 90 seconds, and then I will tell you the one thing no one warned you about. Hi, I'm Kerry. Welcome to Brainy Beginnings Lab. I studied developmental and clinical psychology at the University of Michigan with a focus on children and adolescents. For more than 10 years, I have worked as an early interventionist, which means I spend my days on living room floors with families during the single most important window of brain development a human being will ever experience: birth to 5. And in a decade of that work, one pattern has appeared more often than any other. Parents come to me worried about a behavior: tantrums that seem too big, clinginess that never eases, sleep that never settles, meltdowns at drop off that last longer than they should. And nearly every time, the thing that looks like a behavior problem is not a behavior problem. It is a nervous system that learned something it was never supposed to learn that early. Today, we are talking about the most misunderstood version of that lesson: anxious attachment. What it actually is, the signs that hide in plain sight, the patterns that build it inside loving homes, what is physically happening inside your child's brain while it forms, the cost it carries into adulthood. And 3 research-backed shifts you can begin tonight. But I made you a promise. And I'm going to keep it right now. The behavior is this: the Velcro baby, the infant who always needs to be held, the toddler who tracks you across the room like a radar, the child everyone describes as so attached or such a mama's baby. From the outside, it looks like extraordinary love. From the inside, from the nervous system's perspective, it may be something very different. That child's brain may have already concluded that proximity to you is the only reliable source of calm it has ever known. Not one source among several, the only source. And when the only source might leave the room, the alarm never turns off. Now, before the panic starts, not every clingy baby is anxiously attached. Temperament is real. Developmental stages are real. But there is a specific neurological pattern underneath certain kinds of clinginess that researchers have tracked since the 1950s. And here is the part that should stop you. That pattern forms fastest in homes where the parent is trying the hardest. And there is something those parents do every day with the best of intentions that researchers have linked directly to how the pattern takes root. It is not yelling, it is not neglect, it is not screen time. It is something so subtle that you have probably been congratulated for it. I will name it: But first, you need the science underneath it, or the name will not land the way it needs to. In 1969, British psychiatrist John Bowlby published research that permanently changed how we understand childhood. His argument was radical for its time. The bond between a child and a caregiver is not just emotional. It is neurological. It physically reshapes the architecture of the developing brain. Shortly after, his colleague Mary Ainsworth designed a now famous experiment called the strange situation. She brought mothers and their 1-year-olds into a room, introduced a stranger, had the mother briefly leave, then watched what happened when the mother returned. What she documented became the foundation of modern attachment science. Children separated into 4 distinct patterns: secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized. Anxious attachment appears in roughly 15 to 20% of children studied. But most clinicians I have spoken with believe the real number is significantly higher, because anxious attachment is constantly mislabeled as personality, as sensitivity, as a phase, as she has always been like that. This is the cleanest distinction I can give you. Secure attachment forms when a caregiver is predictably responsive. Not perfect, predictable. The child's nervous system learns one sentence. When I reach out, connection comes. Once the brain trusts that sentence, the child relaxes. They explore, they play alone, they recover from frustration. Because the connection is assumed. Anxious attachment forms differently. The caregiver is sometimes available, sometimes distracted, sometimes warm, sometimes overwhelmed. Not abusive, not neglectful, just inconsistent enough that the child's brain cannot build a reliable rule. So the brain does what evolution designed it to do. It turns up the volume, cry harder, cling longer, monitor constantly, because sometimes that works. That child is not manipulating you. That child's nervous system is executing the only survival strategy that has ever produced results. And it will keep executing it louder each time until something changes. Now, here is what is actually changing inside the brain while this is happening. And once you see this, you will never look at your child's meltdown the same way again. In the first 3 years of life, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that handles emotional regulation, impulse control, the ability to calm yourself down, is barely functional. It will not finish developing until the mid-20s. In a 1-year-old, it is structurally incapable of managing big emotions alone, which means something most parents have never been told clearly enough. You are not just soothing your child, you are functioning as their prefrontal cortex. Neuroscientists like Allan Schore and Siegel call this co-regulation. The child cannot regulate alone. They borrow calm from your nervous system, your breathing, your heart rate, your muscle tension, your face, your voice. When your nervous system is steady and predictable, the child's nervous system copies yours. Over time, it learns what calm feels like. It builds its own circuitry for getting there. But when your nervous system is unpredictable, calm here, activated there, fully present in this moment, mentally somewhere else in the next, the child's stress response system never gets a stable template. Cortisol rises more easily. The amygdala, the brain's threat detector, becomes more reactive. Hypervigilance pathways grow thicker. Self-regulation pathways grow thinner. This is not a metaphor. This is documented in longitudinal neuroimaging from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child. And at every moment, the child's brain is asking one unconscious question. Is it safe enough to relax? The answer arrives through your body long before any word is ever processed. And now that you understand the mechanism, I can finally name the invisible behavior I have been holding back. The one loving parents are praised for, The one that quietly feeds the anxious pattern in a way almost nobody discusses. It has a name, and it explains more than any other single pattern on this list. The behavior is called continuous partial attention. It is the moment your child hands you a block while you are answering a text, the mommy watch, that landed while your mind was on tomorrow's appointment. The eye contact that almost happened but didn't because you were scrolling. You were in the room, your attention was not. And your child's nervous system can feel the difference with a precision that would disturb you if you measured it. But continuous partial attention is only one of 7 patterns researchers have connected to anxious attachment. And one of the others is something you have almost certainly been praised for doing. Let me walk through all 7. None of them require a bad parent. Every single one shows up in loving homes. Pattern 1, inconsistent emotional availability. Warm and present in some moments, distracted or overwhelmed in others. From an adult perspective, this is just life. From the perspective of a developing brain trying to build a prediction model of the world, it is deeply destabilizing. The child's brain keeps asking, if I signal distress, what happens? And when the answer keeps changing, the alarm stays on. Pattern 2, emotional enmeshment. This is the one you have been praised for. The parent who cannot tolerate the child's distress, who rushes in to fix, soothe, distract, hand the snack, remove the obstacle instantly, every time, before the child has even had a moment to sit with the feeling. From the outside, that looks like the most attentive parent in the room. From the inside, the child's nervous system absorbs something unintended. My feelings are too dangerous, too big, even for the person who loves me most. Healthy emotional development requires small, manageable doses of frustration, followed by support, followed by recovery. That cycle is how tolerance is built. When we erase the frustration instantly, we erase the developmental opportunity with it. Pattern 3. Parental anxiety transferred to the child. Babies read facial tension, vocal tone, breathing patterns, and muscle tightness with a precision no adult can match. So when you hold your baby and say, "You are okay," but your jaw is clenched, your breath is shallow, and your shoulders are up near your ears. The baby reads the body, not the words. This is called emotional contagion, and it is one of the most replicated findings in infant research. Children inherit our nervous systems long before they ever inherit our advice. Pattern 4, responding to distress with distress. The baby cries. The parent becomes frantic, tense, overwhelmed. Both nervous systems go up at the same time. Co-regulation requires at least one calm nervous system in the room. When both are activated, the child learns something dangerous. Distress is contagious and uncontrollable. Pattern 5, and this is the one that locks the pattern in. Intermittent reinforcement. This is the most powerful reinforcement schedule known to behavioral science. It is the exact mechanism the gambling industry uses to make slot machines addictive. When a reward arrives unpredictably, the behavior chasing that reward does not weaken, it intensifies. That is why someone will sit at a slot machine for 9 hours. That is why you check your phone 100 times a day, Kiki. And it is exactly what happens when parental warmth is inconsistent. Sometimes the bid for connection lands beautifully. Sometimes it gets a sigh, sometimes it gets nothing. The child's brain cannot let go because connection sometimes comes, and when it comes, the relief is enormous. So the nervous system keeps trying harder, louder, longer. This is why anxious attachment is so persistent. The inconsistency is what makes it irresistible. Pattern 6, missed emotional bids. The continuous partial attention I already named, researcher John Gottman found that the single strongest predictor of attachment security is not big parenting moments. Again, it is the small, ordinary, repeated moments of turning toward a child's attempt to connect. A look, a reach, a toy held up, a tug on your pants. Modern life has created something developmental psychology never had to account for: the parent who is physically present and cognitively elsewhere. The child feels the gap and adapts the only way the nervous system knows how, by signaling louder. Pattern 7, inconsistent limits. Saying no, then giving in when the crying escalates, holding the boundary on Tuesday, abandoning it on Wednesday. The nervous system reads this the same way it reads every other form of unpredictability. The rules are unstable. I cannot relax. I need to keep testing. That testing behavior is almost universally called defiance. It is not defiance. It is a brain trying to find something solid to stand on. Now that you understand the patterns, let me show you what they produce, because these signs are hiding in your daily life right now, disguised as something else entirely. The child who cannot be soothed, even though you are right there, holding them, doing everything. The nervous system has learned that your presence does not reliably predict relief, so the alarm stays on even in your arms. The separation distress that does not resolve. All babies protest separation around 8 months. That is normal. But anxiously attached babies do not protest and settle. They escalate. The daycare calls, the crying continues for an hour. And sometimes the child cannot settle even after you return. The emotional reactions that seem wildly out of proportion. A dropped cracker triggers a 20-minute meltdown. A transition from one activity to the next feels like the end of the world. This is not a discipline problem. This is a nervous system calibrated to amplify every signal, because amplification has historically been the only thing that works. The sleep that never comes easily. Sleep requires the nervous system to downregulate. A brain wired for hypervigilance resists downregulation the way you would resist closing your eyes in a room you do not trust. And the push-pull at reunion. The child who runs to you when you return, then arches away, wants to be held, then squirms to get down. That is not confusion. That is the nervous system's core conflict laid bare. I need you desperately, but needing you has never been safe. If you are recognizing your child in this or recognizing yourself, I need to pause and tell you something before we go further. This is not about blame. This is not about guilt. And this is absolutely not about fear. Understanding what anxious attachment becomes is about understanding the stakes clearly enough to act. Because anxious attachment does not stay in childhood. It follows the nervous system into adulthood, into every relationship, into mental health, into how your child learns. Dr. Philip Shaver and Dr. Mario Mikulincer have spent decades tracking anxiously attached children into adulthood. The data is consistent across hundreds of studies. Adults with anxious attachment report higher relationship dissatisfaction, stronger fear of abandonment, greater emotional reactivity, more difficulty recovering after conflict. And here is the tragedy buried inside that data. The very behaviors anxious attachment produces, the reassurance seeking, the emotional intensity, the constant scanning for signs of withdrawal, those behaviors push partners away, which confirms the original belief: connection is unreliable. The pattern feeds itself across an entire lifetime. The mental health trajectory follows the same line. The Minnesota Longitudinal Study of Risk and Adaptation tracked children for over 30 years. Finding: anxious attachment in early childhood was a significant predictor of anxiety disorders in adolescence and adulthood, even after controlling for temperament and life events. The mechanism is structural. A brain that spent years monitoring for disconnection built thicker threat detection circuits and thinner self-regulation circuits. The wiring is lopsided. It is not a character flaw. It is neurobiology. And learning suffers too. Real learning requires curiosity, frustration tolerance, the willingness to fail and try again. An anxious nervous system prioritizes scanning over exploring. The brain is busy staying safe. It does not have bandwidth left for growth. Some of the brightest children I have worked with underperform academically. Their brains are full, just not with the curriculum. But here is what I need you to hear before fear takes over. None of this is permanent. The brain that built the anxious pattern can build a secure one, and the research on how it happens is not only clear, it is the opposite of what most parenting content tells you to aim for. 3 shifts. You can begin tonight. No purchases, no apps, no new philosophy. Just your attention redirected. Shift 1, the reunion window. For 1 week, watch the first 3 to 5 minutes after you return to your child. Daycare, pickup. Coming home from work, walking back in after a phone call. Does your child reconnect and settle, or reconnect and stay dysregulated? That window tells you more about nervous system security than any other moment in the day. Here's the adjustment. When you walk back in, pause everything, phone down, get physically low, squat, kneel, sit on the floor. Let your child come into your body before you redirect them anywhere. 3 minutes. That is it. Reunion quality is one of the most reliable indicators of attachment security measured across cultures. 3 minutes of full presence is worth more to the nervous system than 2 hours of fragmented togetherness. Shift 2, count the bids. For 3 days, do not change a single thing about your parenting. Just count. Every look your child sends you, every toy held up, every watch this, every sound meant to pull you in, every tug on your leg, say. Gottman's research found that turning toward roughly 50 to 70% of bids is enough to support secure attachment. You do not need to catch everyone. You need to catch more than you are catching now. Most parents, when they actually count, are stunned by how many bids pass by unnoticed, not from neglect, from the sheer noise of modern life. The counting alone, without changing anything else, pulls your attention back into the room, and your child's nervous system registers the shift within days. Shift 3, and this is the one that changes everything. Repair, not perfection. In 1975, developmental researcher Ed Tronick ran the still face experiment. A mother plays warmly with her baby. Then, on cue, her face goes blank. Within seconds, the baby tries to re-engage. Within a minute, the baby is in visible distress. Then the mother re-engages, warmly, fully, and the baby recovers. What Tronick discovered rewrote attachment science. Secure attachment is not built by parents who never disconnect. It is built by parents who reconnect after disconnection. Again and again and again. Misattunement is not the enemy. Unrepaired misattunement is. Researchers estimate that securely attached parent-child pairs spend roughly 30% of their time in attunement. 30%, the other 70% is mismatch, rupture, and repair. That is the bar, not perfection. Repair. So when you snap because you are exhausted, go back, sit down, say, I was frustrated. That was not about you. When you missed the bid because you were on a call, go back, get low, say, I saw you trying to show me something. Show me now. You do not have to be a perfect parent. You have to be a repairing one. So let me bring this back to where we started. The most anxious children often come from the most loving homes, not because the love is not real, but because love alone is not what the developing nervous system is measuring. It is measuring predictability. It is measuring repair. It is measuring whether your presence reliably predicts calm. If you heard yourself in some of these patterns today, good. That recognition is where the rewiring begins. The brain that built the pattern is the same brain that can change it, and it can change it at any age, including yours. You sat through nearly 30 minutes of developmental neuroscience about your child's inner world. That tells me everything I need to know about the kind of parent you are. You are paying attention, and attention is the single variable that changes outcomes most. I am Kerry. This is Brainy Beginnings Lab. If this helped you see your child differently or see yourself differently, send it to one parent who needs it. There are millions of parents watching these signs unfold every day with no idea what they are actually looking at. I will see you in the next one.